This is Venice Beach, California. This is where it all got started for the Doors. This is where Jim and I met. This is Beatniks. Wonderful little Jewish community over there when we were here. Charles Bukowski was down here. Beat poetry was going on. West Coast jazz came out of here. Venice Beach, California, man. Everything was happening here. Now, this is what you always see, you know? I mean, this is Venice and the rollerbladers, and there's basketball, and there's 1,000 little things going on. It's a fabulous place, but it wasn't like this when we were down here. It was a whole dark and funky kind of place, you know? And it was mysterious and beatniks, jazz, and reefer, if you know what I mean, you know, that sort of thing. Why don't we take a look and see if we can find some of those kind of darker places? I think you'll find it interesting. So this is where Orson Welles shot Touch of Evil. I don't know if you've seen Touch of Evil, but you got to check it out. It's a great... Actually, the producer of Lover Madley is the producer of the redo of Touch of Evil, the original Touch of Evil, the way Orson Welles originally envisioned it. And this is where he shot it. This was Mexico. This became Mexico. Uncle Joe Grande's Rancho Grande was down here. There's some great scenes of guys running around Janet Leigh and that gorgeous body of hers, and Charlton Heston as her husband, that ticking bomb in the car, and that great Henry Mancini score. Touch of Evil all takes place right here, man, right here in Venice. And Jim could be in a place like this, you know? This kind of place where a man could commit a crime, plan a murder, start a religion. One of those Venice bars, man, funky places, you know? Here's the St. Mark's Jazz Club. This is a very cool jazz club, and these are those colonnades that are still left from, you know, from the 20s. I think they started building this back when just before the oil boom hit. So this is Venice, but this is Venice, Italy, you know? This is the way it was supposed to look here, but it ain't the way it ever looked. Let's go see what happened to it. These are the Venice Canals. They look pretty good, don't they? They may not be the canals in Venice, Italy, but these look pretty good to me. We spent a lot of time down here, had friends down here, dropping acid right here in the Venice Canals. This is something I think you're going to like. This is Jim Morrison's self-published first book of poetry, The Lord's Notes on Vision, James Douglas Morrison. Michael McClure told Jim to do this. What Jim wanted to do was get a work of poetry out there, but no one wanted to publish a rock star's poetry, and Jim didn't want to be known as a rock star anyway. He wanted to be a poet. So this is what he did. McClure said, publish it yourself, man. And he put this beautiful little thing together. Look at this. See, it's this binder, and it's got all of these poems in here. It's got, each one is on an individual piece of paper. Let me read a couple to you. This is about film. This is what the Doors were all about. The Doors were all about movies and film and, you know, making music that was like a soundtrack for a movie in your mind. Jim says, today the doors of all projection booths are made of steel. Does the theater keep out light, or does it keep in darkness? Let me read you another one. Cinema returns us to anima, religion of matter, which gives each thing its special divinity and sees gods in all things and beings. Cinema, air of alchemy, last of an erotic science. Ooh. Cinema, air of alchemy, last of an erotic science. God, this is good stuff. Jesus, Jim, don't drink. So here we are. This is the very spot. Just down from Fraser. We lived up on Fraser. We'll show you that. I came walking straight down Fraser, sat down here on the beach, middle of July 1965. Jim and I had both graduated from UCLA in late May 1965. I got my master's degree. He got his bachelor's degree. I thought he was going off to New York City. I thought I'd never see him again. There I am sitting on the beach, not knowing what I'm going to do with myself. So walking down the beach is none other than James Douglas Morrison. And I said, hey, Jim, come on over here, man. I didn't even recognize him at first because he was just, he was hard and lean. He had lost, 25, 30 pounds. Not as if he was fat or anything at school, but he was a little soft, He wasn't necessarily a weightlifter. But man, when I saw him on the beach, he had little cutoffs on. He was like 135 pounds, 6 feet tall. God, is that Jim? And sure enough, come on over, man. He sat down. I said, what are you up to? And he said, well, tell you the truth, I've been writing some songs. And I said, whoa. He said, I'm up on Dennis Jacobs' rooftop, looking out over the ocean at Venice Beach and writing songs. And I said, well, for God's sake, man, sing me a song. Sat down right here. And let me show you what he did. This is kind of fun. Dug his hands in, like this. And the sand was just kind of pouring out, sort of like that. And he kind of gritted his teeth and dug into it, and he said, this one's called Moonlight Drive. And he started to sing those words, and it was haunted, It was like, let's swim to the moon, let's climb through the tide, penetrate the evening that the city sleeps to hide. And I thought, wow, very cool stuff, very cool. Let's swim out tonight, love, it's our turn to try. Parked beside the ocean on a moonlight drive. And I thought, very, very cool. And I heard like, I heard all kinds of Ray Charles and kind of funky organ keyboard stuff behind it. And then he said he had a couple of other songs. I said, what else you got? He said, well, I've got My Eyes Have Seen You, a hard one, My Eyes Have Seen You, My Eyes Have Seen You. And he just sat and he was pounding on his legs. Eyes have seen you, let them photograph your soul. Memorize your rallies on an endless roll. And I'm hearing gong, 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 all kinds of Latino kind of stuff going on behind it. Then he had Summer's Almost Gone, a Bach-like, very soft, gentle kind of, a love song, a song of loss, a lost innocence, lost love. And it was at that point, sitting here with the sand coming out of Morrison's fingers like this, just draining out. And I said, you know what, man, we got to get a band together. That's what we've got to do. We got to get a rock and roll band together. And he said, Ray, that's exactly what I want to do. I said, well, you know what? Perfect, Jim. And I said, you're going to come home and live with me and live with Dorothy. I mean, we got room right up on Fraser. I said, there's only one problem. What do we call the band? And he said, The Doors. And I said, The Doors? That's like the stupidest name I've ever... Oh, wait a minute, time out, man. You mean like the doors of perception? Like opening the doors in your mind? And he said, yeah, exactly. Opening the doors in your Aldous Huxley's book, The Doors of Perception. And I said, oh, that's incredible. With the lyrics that you've got, and what I'm going to do with the keyboards and the music, all we got to do is get a great guitar player and a great drummer. And we did find those. John Densmore, a great drummer. Robbie Krieger, a genius, brilliant guitar player. We found those guys. It's going to be psychedelic. That's the kind of music we're going to make. It's going to be psychedelic. And I said, well, come on, man, let's get your stuff from Dennis's, and you just come on, and Dorothy will be home pretty soon from work, and let's go tell her the good news. So come on, man, let's go to Fraser and check it out. I'll show you where we live. Come on. Boy, it's great. This hasn't changed. I mean, this is exactly. Yeah, so right over on Hart Street, Linda Ronstadt and the Stone Ponies. It was before Linda Ronstadt became famous. And the Beatniks were no longer here. They were gone. We were after the Beatniks, and then we were before the hippies.
So that little period of 1963, 4, 5, 6, the hippies hadn't taken over yet. So we were sort of existential, beatnik, filmmaker kind of guys.
No hippies here. My brother Jim on keys. Oh, that's me, UCLA Film School. Oh, look, who's that guy? See that guy moving there in the white shirt? You know who that is. That's Jim Morrison. Check this out. Here's Ray Manzarek and Jim Morrison before they had ever even talked about the Doors. Filmmakers at UCLA.
That's it right here. This is where it all took place. This is where Jim Morrison, Ray Manzarek, Dorothy Fujikawa all lived together here. And Dorothy and I lived here, and this is where I made my student movies too. So before Jim came to join us, you know, it's exactly the same color. Nothing has changed. Let's see if somebody's home. Maybe we can go inside. No, I don't think we're going to be able to get in, but this is it. This is it. As a matter of fact, let's take a look at it right now. What do you say?
This is from my student movie, Evergreen. It's about a jazz guy and his girl. There's his girl in bed, that's Dorothy. Here's the jazz guy, Hank Olguin, good buddy. There's Dorothy.
I had pictures of, naked pictures of Dorothy up on the wall. Yep. We had a little barbecue set up just like this. You know, we didn't have this kind, we had a little one. And the three of us didn't have enough money to buy a full meat, potatoes, vegetables, and all that. So what we would do is go over to the one of the big chain stores, and we'd buy a Gallo Hearty Burgundy. That was my drink. Gallo Hearty Burgundy went well with the steak. We'd buy a couple of baked potatoes, some broccoli or whatever, or some stuff for a salad. And that would be all the money we'd have, you know, between the three of us. We didn't have any money. And with Dorothy's, you know, money, and, you know, that's all we had. And we said, geez, what are we going to do about the steaks? And Morrison said, hey, don't worry about the steaks, man. I'm going to handle the steaks. So this is like summer. It's like July. You know, he's wearing something like this, something big. He puts on this big pea coat. And we're standing, looking at the steaks, going, God, these are beautiful. Look at all this wonderful meat. And Morrison says, yep. Grabs a steak, slips it in here, grabs another big steak, slips it in here, and very coolly closes his jacket. Well, why don't we leave now? I think we have everything we need, Ray. So the three of us are pushing our cart with a bunch of stuff in it, you know, but none of it very expensive. And Morrison's got a couple of steaks under. And we come back here, light those suckers up, man. I'll tell you, we didn't have any money, but it sure was good. Isn't that nice? But under here, it's all dark and spooky. You can see how Morrison was inspired here. It's cold under here. This is the kind of place where a man could write a song called The End. This is an area I used to like to hang out in. Kind of back, it's up, it's softer. You know, it's all wet down here, but you get back up in here, and it's a lot softer. And he'd sit over there, and that's where he was sitting, right in here somewhere, when he wrote The End. This is the end, beautiful friend. The end of laughter and soft lies. The end of nights we tried to die. And that's for his girl Mary, too. That's for Mary. He wrote the end to her, and then little by little it expanded and became the great song. That was at the London Fog, and we stretched it out. But basically it was just a short little love song. And this is where he wrote it, right down under here. And we took photos under here. We took Morrison Hotel photos were taken under here. This is the original Muscle Beach. Actually, it used to be set up right over in here. And then it was taken over by gymnasts and whatnot. And Jim and I used to come down here. So what we used to do is work out on these rings.
if you can believe it. Jim and I would go from one end to the other and back again and back again. And then they had this great bar like this, except it was like stretched out. It wasn't on this, it was another thing. I swear it must have gone 45 feet in the air. And Jim would go hand over hand, over hand, over hand, all the way up to the top and all the way back down. I mean, we were Iron Man, man. We were buff. Dorothy's working, supporting us, and we're out here doing all this stuff. Check this guy out right here. This is the kind of stuff we used to do. So we're in shape. Dorothy's working, supporting us. We're working on songs. There's only one problem. What if the Doors don't make it? Here's Morrison's backup plan. Maybe I'll go back to school and get my master's degree. You got one, Ray. Why don't I do the same thing? I said, well, you know, your student movie, undergrad movie, was very poetic and very artistic, but they want a story. They're going to want a linear movie or something, you know? You got to do the kind of movies that they want you to make. And about a week later, you know, working out here on the rings and everything, he said, hey, I got an idea for that student movie, man. It's a love story and a murder. It's a girl, and they're all in love with this girl. There's like 3 guys. One guy's like a filmmaker, you know? One guy is like a weirdo kind of art major or something, and one guy is a teacher. They're all in love with this girl, and one of them kills somebody. But we don't know who. At the beginning of the movie, we take it all. He said, that's the story, man. And I said, well, you know what's weird, man, is that because the girl is like your girl, isn't it? And he said, yeah. Think of it as they're all in love with Mary, and maybe one of the guys is like Dennis, like a weirdo or something, you know, just an artistic guy, but just really weird. And then I said, well, and you're the filmmaker guy, I suppose, huh? He said, well, yeah, it'd be me in there, too. And I said, well, who's the older guy? And he said, remember that teacher at UCLA that was running around with the younger chicks and got in trouble and everything? And I said, yeah, I can't remember his name, though. Yeah, I know the guy you mean. That's the older guy. So it's the older guy, the weirdo, I like to think the handsome guy, he said, and somebody like Mary, you know, my chick Mary. And they're all in love with her, and a murder takes place. So basically, Love Her Madly, and we called it Love Her Madly. Obviously, we didn't have the title back then because the song hadn't been written. But Love Her Madly is just, is Morrison's story. So I called my buddy Rick Valentine, scriptwriter, and we sat down and started kicking some ideas around. Then we called Rick Schmidlin, a producer that I've worked with on a lot of films and a lot of Doors videos, and he said, well, let's do it, man. Let's put it all together. So basically what Love Her Madly is written by Rick Valentine and yours truly, produced by Rick Schmidlin, and starring some really terrific actors. Jennifer Lothrop is the girl they're all in love with.
Looking for a little something to wet your whistle?
Madison Mason is the older teacher.
I want you in my office now.
Jill's person is played by T.J. Thine, the weirdo, the video guy. And instead of having a film guy, I made a sculptor out of the Jim Morrison character, and that's Richard Danielson. It doesn't take place at UCLA, it takes place at a mythical college somewhere up on the central coast of California. Story, idea by Jim Morrison.
Is this Jim's watch or not?
Yes, where'd you get this?
Somebody gave it to me who went to film school with Jim.
Yeah, this is his
I'm wearing
watch.
his watch, and I have
Look at this.
10,000 psychics confirm it.
That is amazing.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you so
Wow.
much for rectifying things.
Isn't that great? Fantastic. That was Jim's watch. And here's Jim Morrison. That's my friend. I mean, we were down here and, you know, putting it all together, rocking and rolling and doing what we could, dropping acid and smoking joints and opening the doors of perception. And now look at him, you know? He's an immortal. My God. He's on the side of a building. He's pictured on the side of a building. And the only problem with being an immortal is that you have to give up your mortality to become an immortal. And I tell you, I'd rather have him here with us now telling some stories than up there on the wall. Cinema has evolved in two paths. One is spectacle, like the Phantasmagoria. Its goal is the creation of a total substitute sensory world. The other, the peep show, which claims for its realm both the erotic and the untampered observance of real life, and imitates the keyhole or the voyeur's window without need of color, noise, grandeur. The peep show.